Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back.
Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Tuesday, April 5th, 2016. I'm Dan Rubin. Thrilled to be joined today by the Dean of Midwest Recruiting, and Ohio State in particular, Bill Kurelic. Bill, how are you this fine morning?
Very well, Dan. Very well.
Bill is the foremost expert in the Western Hemisphere when it comes to football recruiting, but as everyone who makes an appearance on any type of sports radio today, Bill, you are forced to comment on the basketball game last night. Was that the best championship game you've ever seen?
Certainly, I would say the most exciting. I don't know that I'd say the best game because there were some rough spots, let's say that. But there were also some great spurts where you'd go from nobody playing well offensively to both teams. Neither team can miss a shot at times. But, what a finish. It's interesting. I had told my son I think this is going to be a great one tonight. And I don't know if as far as excitement you can get much better than that. Page's 3 was spectacular, let alone the game winner. So, yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, for the degree of difficulty on Marcus Page's 3 was incredible. He had also made a layup, missed a layup, ripped the rebound out of someone's hand and made a layup earlier on. That was incredible. For those of you who listen to our shows, you know that I picked North Carolina. I will be honest about this. I do not like Villanova. I have personal reasons for it that go way back, and I feel are justified. I thought they would lose because Jay Wright doesn't know how to coach. And as it turns out, they won the game on a play called by Jay Wright down the stretch. So Villanova, that was a great call. Had a senior point guard to get the ball to, and then a guy from D.C. to take the shot. So it's always good to do that. But we digress.
And then if our listeners haven't seen it yet, you got to watch the reaction right to winning the game, or should I say, lack of reaction. It was the most stoic reaction I've ever seen for a coach winning a national championship. It's kind of classic. He really doesn't even react. I guess it's just ho-hum at Villanova.
Yeah, I think he's full of it. That's why. But anyway, we'll go on. We'll talk a little bit about the competition here. 2 names that maybe don't mean as much to Buckeye fans now that will down the stretch or will eventually. Nebraska and Michigan State both picked up their quarterbacks of the future this week. Nebraska, Tristan Gebbia out of Calabasas in California. If you look at the picture, he looks like he should go to Calabasas, which is Kardashian high. And Rocky Lombardi from Michigan State. Gebbia had a nice offer list. It included Alabama. Lombardi looked like UVA and Iowa with other competitors from Michigan State. Did Ohio State have interest in any of these guys?
Ohio State really wasn't, pursuing either one of those guys. Not to say that they aren't good quarterbacks. It's just that, Ohio State really wasn't going after either one of them. And it'll be interesting to see how they do in the Big Ten. Obviously Ohio State has a quarterback in the 2017 class, Danny Clark. And then they visited Tate Martell, the number 1 dual threat quarterback in the country for the class 2017. So, Gebbia, he's about 6'3", 180 pounds, and looks like a little bit like a California surfer guy. We'll see what he does at Nebraska. And in the case of Rocky Lombardi, well, maybe the Buckeyes will get to know him over the next few years. We'll see.
I will say this: the name Rocky Lombardi, definitely a good football name for the Big Ten, but probably need a little more than your name. One name that kind of popped up out of nowhere recently in terms of visit, Trey Smith, decorated offensive lineman class of 2017 out of Tennessee. Talk about an offer list. He was in town recently. He's got one of those elite crystal ball readings right now. It looks like Tennessee, Auburn, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. What are your thoughts on Smith?
Well, he'd be a great get for the Buckeyes. Now, he visited Notre Dame over the weekend. Then continued his short visit tour, going to Ohio State yesterday on Monday. The little bit of a bad thing, I guess, is that Ohio State wasn't practicing. They don't have spring practice on Monday, so he didn't get to actually go to a spring practice. But lo and behold, Urban turned that into a positive in some ways, because if Ohio State was having a spring practice, Urban wouldn't be available the whole day, so to speak. He'd be involved in that practice, of course. And with Urban not having a spring practice, he's basically spent the day with Trey Smith, and that's kind of unheard of. I don't know that I've had any prospect so far this spring tell me they've spent basically the whole day, the whole visit with Urban Meyer, the man himself. Trey Smith said that from start to finish, he was with Urban Meyer yesterday, and it went very well. He's one of the elite offensive linemen in the country, Trey Smith. You mentioned, Dan, tremendous offer list. He's a Southern kid. He's from Tennessee, so as you might expect, he's got Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama, Clemson. The list goes on and on. Ohio State, Notre Dame, LSU, Michigan, and Oregon, Stanford, so on. Very difficult to say right now what he's going to do. He's going to take a few official visits once the season gets here. He is going to be an early graduate, so he's got to get things done early. Probably won't take all 5 visits, but at this point, you're fighting to get one of those few official visits. And as he put it, when I talked to him right after the visit, he said that his Ohio State visit was certainly good enough and was impressed enough that put Ohio State in, as he put it, good contention. So that's about as much as you can ask for at this point for one of the elite prospects in the country.
No doubt that it will raise I don't know about the argument, but it will raise the question again whether Ohio State should be investing this much recruiting time in a prospect that's obviously looking either to stay in the South or maybe not pop out. I'm always of the mind that you got to go after every one of these guys. Ohio State's one of those schools that can go in there and pull that off, so there's no mountain too high for them when it comes to recruiting. Speaking of which, a 2018 kid who's maybe a mountain too high, as I contradict myself, Leonard Taylor out of Springfield. We've had you on the Bucknuts 90 to talk about it. He's not been on the BM5 since he committed. What's your vibe on Leonard Taylor from Springfield committing to Michigan over the weekend? Does it feel like something that's going to stick to you? It's quite a ways down the road.
Yeah, it's hard to say right now. Matter of fact, I talked to Leonard Taylor after he made that commitment to Michigan. He committed to Michigan. He went to their spring game Friday night and then committed to Michigan. I talked to him on Saturday or Sunday, I forget which, but either Saturday or Sunday I talked to Leonard for a little bit, and basically he's committed to Michigan right now, but he realizes that signing day for his class, 2018, is a long ways off. We talked about if he was going to be looking around at other schools at all in that time period, and if any other schools had contacted him right away after he had committed to Michigan and told him that he was going to be recruited. And the answer is that no, that he has not had any schools contact him to say, hey, we're still going to continue to recruit you, and so on and so forth. He kind of left it open a little bit that he is committed to Michigan, but that it's just so far off National Signing Day. Who knows what can happen in that time period, and that he really didn't know right now if he would look at other schools or not. And, I guess that's kind of a smart way to approach it, because what happens if Jim Harbaugh happens to go back to the NFL, for instance? That would probably change his thinking dramatically about Michigan. So, again, it's a long ways till National Signing Day, and we'll see what happens.
Bill, there is nobody scheduled to be there today. Obviously, practice, we're not sure about today. Practice will be this afternoon or this morning, and we'll have Urban Meyer after that. But we didn't know Trey Smith was coming in town until he got here. Give us an idea of the next week or so, who's scheduled to be in town, if anybody, leading up to the spring game.
Well, the biggest name would be Christian Tutt, one of the country's premier 2018 defensive back prospects. He's a cornerback who is from Georgia. Interestingly enough, he's from Thompson, Georgia, and he transferred to Bradenton IMG in January, but is back in Thompson, Georgia. He decided not to stay at IMG, so he's back at his home high school, and I expect he'll finish up his high school career in Georgia. But he's scheduled to fly to Detroit on Thursday and then visit Ohio State, Michigan State while he's up here in the Midwest. So that's certainly a big name to keep an eye on. Sam Johnson, a 2019 quarterback, is going to visit Ohio State later this week, and there's a few others. But right now, the list is a little bit more sparse as compared to recent weeks. And part of that is because most schools now, high schools that is, are off of their spring breaks. They've generally had their spring breaks by now, or they're wrapping their spring breaks up this week. So really, while, as you mentioned, Dan, we didn't know about Trey Smith until late that he was visiting Ohio State, and certainly there's going to be a few prospects that come into Ohio State that we'll find out about shortly before they make that visit. But really, the next big time is that spring game, April 16th, and the list for Ohio State as far as visits for the spring game is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. We're about 11 days away, and obviously nothing's etched in stone, but who are some names people right now can get geeked up about?
Well, certainly the country's number one running back, Najee Harris. He's an Alabama commitment. He's going to be at the spring game. And then, a wide receiver that I just think is as good as it gets. And we all know how Ohio State has a chance at some great wide receivers in this class. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, he is special. I continue to think that I'll be a bit surprised if he ends up at Ohio State. But he is planning to go to the Ohio State spring game. You've got Darnay Holmes out of California and Jeffrey Okudah out of Texas. Those guys are just elite, absolutely elite defensive backs that'll be at the spring game. Amir Reep from Coleraine High School is going to be there. You look at Jalen Harris, the wide receiver from Cleveland. Those are prospects that all of them, any point they want to commit, you say, great, you're in. That's how good they are. So, and that doesn't even include the class of 2018, where you've got a lot of 2018 prospects going to be at the spring game, including Jackson Carman, who just visited Ohio State this past weekend, the top offensive lineman in the state of Ohio for 2018.
It's certainly going to be a star-studded cast, people. You can be guaranteed or rest assured that come April 16th, the epicenter of the Earth's recruiting for football will be in Columbus. We appreciate Bill hopping on short notice. We'll have Dwayne on next Tuesday. Have a good one, Bucknuts.